everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and we are continuing on with the Film Journey series, and this time a longtime friend and somebody that has been needing to be on this for far too long. Buddy, Master Chaos, how are you?
Nathan, I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan of this series, so this feels like a coming home. Being here with you, in your special little place on YouTube to talk about movies, man. I'm excited.
I am too. And like I was saying, it's been a long time coming. I know all those years back now. I can think of that when this whole thing started. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. So I'm super glad that we're able to do this now. Yeah, it's a good summer for it, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a hot summer. I have my fan going off to the corner here, so hopefully you don't hear it on the mic. But man, it is boiling here in Los Angeles. It's 100 degrees almost every day, sometimes 104.
It's in the 90s here, but the humidity is very high here, so it feels like 100. So, and I had no AC for 2 weeks. So, because my furnace broke, so I had to buy that. That was something. But anyway, I went on to talk about all the fun homeowners stupid business stuff going on here. But anyway, because we're here to talk about films and such. And so I'm sure everyone who's watching this at home knows the drill. But if you are new here, what we do is we have a guest in the community talking about their film journey, just going from their early memories all the way to where they're at now. So before we jump into that, though, I would like to know, what have you been currently watching, man?
Too much. I set a challenge for myself at the beginning of the year where I'm going to watch 1,000 movies in 2022.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I've been watching a lot. I mean, at the least 2 movies a night, at the most 5 movies. So I've been cramming a ton of, the last thing I watched was Grand Slam from Kino Lorber, which I didn't like. And then The Iron-Fisted Monk starring Sammo Hung, which, you just had Flip on. I'm sure Flip knows it very well.
Oh, yeah.
So I just watched those recently. Actually, 2 hours ago, me and my son watched Predator 2, which is an awesome sequel.
I love that movie. And that movie gets too much shit. And I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't.
It's great. It's a fantastic movie. I mean, it delivers the goods. There's nudity. There's a lot of Predator action in it. Like it expands the world. It's an awesome sequel.
I love, honestly, the bookends of that film are so memorable, like the beginning and the end. I mean, as a kid, because I saw that, not too long after. I may have seen that before I saw Predator. I don't even know. But when I was younger, I remember watching that and being like, oh, so this is how southern, South Los Angeles is in the summer, especially in the 90s. Everyone's got Uzis. And
it wasn't very good for tourism. LA looks really bad in that movie for sure.
Yeah, and then at the end, of course, if anyone hasn't seen it, that send-off is just, I love it. And like you said, it expands the universe. And Predator is one of my favorites. I actually have Predator figures all over around here, just hidden in different spots. So he's one of my favorites. So
I love that. I remember renting the first Predator at a video store, and I didn't know it was about aliens. Arnold's on the cover with a machine gun in the jungle. You're thinking, oh, it's like a Rambo movie, and it's almost like a From Dusk Till Dawn kind of thing, where you're like, okay, they're hunting, okay, soldiers are missing, okay, whatever, and they're trying to rescue some guys. Then all of a sudden, what the fuck is going on here? What is that thing in the trees? And you're as freaked out as they are, because you're just like, what's happening? What's hunting them? Oh, it was great. What a hell of a way to kick off a franchise. And I feel like the second one just expanded on that and gave us more Predator and gave us more of what the hell the Predator is. I love it. After that, though, the franchise gets really bad. But
yeah, I mean, I like Predators. All right.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's fun. I literally think it goes in order. I mean, if you're not counting the AVPs, so it goes in order of quality in my mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. So hopefully this new Prey
Yeah.
I hope that usurps some of it. It looks pretty good so far, but who knows? Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that was actually I pitched that a while ago, something like that. My take was going to be a friend, a sort of I don't know if you're familiar with the movie The Mission with Robert De Niro.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, great movie. So
It's a
my
good
idea
story, too.
was it was The Mission meets Predator. So back in the those days, and
Yeah.
he's helping out a small tribe, and then they get killed by some creature, and so basically he helps the Indians hunt down the predator, and that's kind of what Prey is doing. So I'm excited to watch it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I obviously will jump into some of your work, but yeah, those are some good choices that you've been watching that you can remember, because it sounds like you've been, Fire Hydrant has unleashed with this challenge.
Yeah, I'm logging it all on my Letterboxd. I'm up to 600. I'll give you the exact count, but I'm right now I'm currently at I'm a little behind, but I'm at 607 movies this year.
Hot damn! I want to say I'm like at 180 or something like that. Which I feel like what I've been doing with Letterboxd is I've been trying to trying to beat obviously 365, of course. And like anytime I'm near like the actual, I look up the day of the year, and then I'm like, okay, let me look at my journal. It's like, how many do I have? And then I'm like, I have to beat that right now. And so I try to, and then obviously some days go by where I have a whole week where I have too much going on in my life, and I've seen like maybe it's some TV series or something. I'm just like, oh, I haven't watched a movie. I need to catch up. So that's commendable. I love your adventure, and I hope that you can remember some of them.
I hope so. That's why Letterboxd is so good, because I'm able to I review everything I watch, and so everyone will be able to check in and say, oh, and then if I remember, like, wait, what the hell is that about? I can go back, and if I need a script for a video, I can go back and just pull my review and just say what I wrote. So, yeah, it's great.
I love Letterboxd for that reason too. It's honestly, as I get older and lose my hair more and more, it's kind of what happens, So what about recent pickups? I know that you've been jumping back into that Christopher Lee Eurocrypt second set. Does this set getting a little bit better than the first?
Well, I'll tell you what. I just released the last episode a couple days ago, and I'm happy to report it was way better.
That's good.
Way better than Volume 1, which is just awful because he's barely in it. But I think I sort of made peace with the fact that he's not in these movies a lot. And the second one offered honestly better movies, better stories, better plots, more engrossing storylines, and I guess just accepted the fact that he's just going to be a cameo for most of it. So, I mean, if you are okay with him being a cameo, I think Volume 2 is going to be is a better buy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on my eyes are on it, so I might get it sometime soon. But I'm definitely trying to save up because there's been way too much spending going on.
Yeah. No, the last few months have been like sale. It's been crazy.
And I'm peddling it, so I'm a part of the problem. So,
we're the drug dealers that are complaining that there's too much drugs on the market. But
yeah, I definitely put out when I'm recording this, I put out a video today of peddling 10 films, and I even disclaimered that I said I'm not buying really anything, but here's 10 things that I would buy if I were you. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's awesome. So anything else before we jump into this film journey?
Let's see. In terms of buying, really just the big Severance sale, the big Vinegar sale. Criterion's coming up, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But I made a discovery 3 months ago that's it's preventing me from buying any physical media Criterion, and that is the Criterion channel, which is amazing. And I feel like if I have that, and they've got special features on there and commentaries, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm not really buying anything. I might buy Shaft. I think that's probably my one purchase.
I have it over there. Good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's probably. And I already bought Flight of the Phoenix, which I really want. But I got that for $20 on Amazon in one day. It just drops for some reason. So yeah, I'm not really buying anything in the Criterion so either, but I will be telling people, or at least recommending things.
peddling like we always do. Which I always enjoy. And I mean, for real though, I mean, the reason we share these things is because we actually have seen the films and really do care, hopefully,
Yeah.
to showcase to people if they've never seen those things, and hopefully our words kind of get them to think about it, or at least watch it on the Criterion channel, right? I mean, that's the big thing first. It's like, I like that resource. I haven't been on that streaming service in a while. I think mine lapsed either last month or the year before, or the month before. But I love that resource quite a bit, and highly recommend it for people to check it out. So
Absolutely. It's great. And in terms of like, our opinion, it's crazy that people even care what we say, but it's, I take that responsibility, not lightly at all. If I'm going to vouch for something, it's going to be my honest to vouch. But if I'm going to tell you, hey, this is a piece of garbage, then I'm going to tell you why it's a piece of garbage, and then you make your decision because it's your money. But I think that's the fun of cinema, being able to discuss it and argue about it. That's what makes it a lively art. I think more than, I mean, I've never been in that art circle of like, oh, look at these paintings, comparing, Van Gogh to somebody else. So that might be as heated as, debating what's the worst Vinegar Syndrome title, which is Surf 2, but or Dark Tower. But I love the fact that movie fans are passionate about this crazy thing, which is so hard to make, because I've seen it from both sides, and we'll talk about that. But I think the fact that people can find honest critics and support them, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that honesty goes a long way, and I think people, I mean, that's the reason they've come to our channels. So I hope that's a mainstay. So okay, so let's jump into the film journey. So of course, the first obvious question that a lot of, this is always how it starts off, but what are your earliest memories with film?
Well, I'll tell you this. I must have been 3, or maybe 4, but it was around that era. I never remember ages or dates, but I do remember this moment. My father took me to go see Superman 2 in theaters. And I was a big Superman guy. I remember I was Superman for Halloween a lot. I see a lot of pictures of me when I was a kid. And I was enthralled. There was something about, I mean, it's a good movie, but there was something about not just the movie, but the audience reaction that really spoke to me. And it was almost as if the movie was saying, hey, watch them. And I was watching the audience, like, cheering and clapping and laughing, and I was doing the same thing. And like, oh, we're having this communal experience where we're seeing this weird thing on screen, and it's bigger than life, and it's amazing. It's so much fun, and it's telling a beautiful story, and there's joy, and there's terror, and things are scary, and everyone here is safe together and experiencing this thing. And I think it was the audience reaction more than the movie that sort of sparked that fire. Something inside me says, this is what you got to do. This is your life now. And I think from that moment on, I've understood movies, to be more than just a, let's go to the movies on a Sunday afternoon and laugh at some people falling down, then walk away. A lot more goes into it. Like, man, somebody made that. Somebody gets paid to do that. That Superman isn't really Superman, but for 2 hours or whatever, you can believe he is, and that's magic. And the fact that there is real magic in the world, and a lot of it's considered fairly disposable stuff, is it's sad, but I mean, at the same time, it's become so derivative and disposable just because there's so much of it. But back then, the 80s was such a beautiful time to grow up because everything was so special. And almost every movie coming out, hey, next week in Goonies is coming out, or, oh man, we gotta go see Beetlejuice. This looks amazing. Like all these beautiful explorations of cinema. It was a wonderful time for me to grow up. And so I knew instantly I wanted to do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I go, I'm going to do it. And at first I wanted to be an actor, and sort of what I was leaning towards. But then the more I saw behind the scenes and learned about the process, I'm like, oh no, man, the real person in charge of the magic is the director and the writer. And so that became, from early on, I knew what I wanted to do. And, I think I was the only kid in my elementary school who knew exactly what I was going to do no matter what. And I've strived to do that since that moment. To this day, that's what I'm doing.
Well, shoot, that speaks. That goes through the whole venture. But I mean, we're going to talk about the in between as well,
Sure.
of course. Man, I'm jealous of you growing up in the '80s. I'm an early '90s child, so I'm still a great decade, by the way.
Yeah.
Continuation of a lot of that fun stuff, but maybe turned a little bit more dark and more cynical near the end of the decade. But man, that's awesome that you had that early memory that like that far back that you remember that moment.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you said, there really is magic in the world, and for us, and I think for the people who are watching this, who are mainstays watching, this series, I think they understand like that's the reason why we love this medium so damn much is we like it more than maybe the average, consumer of the medium. I don't know. I don't want to like put anything on anyone else, but
Sure.
there's a reason why we have thousands of these things, right? And most people don't. So I love that.
Yeah.
So I guess growing up in that time period, were there a few key movie highlights like in theaters or at home or anybody related go on adventures with when you did that, watching these movies?
Well, movies became very, very special to me because, and I think maybe that's why Superman, that screening was extra special because it's the only memory I have of going to the movies with my father. My parents passed away when I was 5 years old, so I orphaned at an early age, and to be turned, thrown into so much turmoil, and luckily I was adopted by my godparents, and I love them very much, and they're like my mother and father, and luckily they're still alive. I just talked to my mother last weekend. It was her birthday, and so they were great, and so that's why Superman specifically kind of stuck in my head. Is like that. This is a memory you need to remember, and I didn't know why at the time, but I do now. I'm sure we went to the movies all the time, but that was the only one that really clicked. So that movie is really special to me, but it's one of those movies I can't really go back and rewatch. I think it's one of those kind of precious things where I can't really watch it again because it's almost like you break the spell if you say it again or something. I don't know.
I get that.
I have seen it, I have seen like the Donner cut and things like that, but it's not one that I rewatch a lot. I've maybe seen it, gosh, 3 times, but it's, I think I've probably seen the first one more. I might have actually seen Quest for Peace more, which is weird, but
which is the best Superman movie,
right? Exactly, absolutely.
And I haven't seen any of them. Fun fact.
Really? Oh
I know,
man.
I know. That's a big blind spot on my. I mean, of course I've seen clips, and I've seen the Superman Returns, the classics, and all these newer DC adventures. Unfortunately.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I need to
You
get to
gotta
the
go back.
movies. I'll go back. I'll go back. Promise.
Yeah, please do. I mean, at least the first 2, you're gonna have a good time. So that one was important to me. And then when I moved in with my godparents, my new dad loved movies, and he was the first physical media guy, and he actually introduced me to collecting. Back in the day, I remember walking into a Suncoast, and they had Terminator 2 on VHS. Yeah, right. It's a great store.
I love that store.
Dude, they had Terminator 2 on VHS. I'm like, oh man, let's buy it. It was $100. Like, no. Okay, she's like, no, we're not buying it for $100. Like, dang, that's a lot of money. This is before VHS was all over the place. Right. So what we would do is we would just take movies off of HBO, and he had a library of all these movies. So that's how I discovered Ghostbusters, Jake Speed, Monster Squad, like all these movies that which I can't believe that I missed Monster Squad in theaters. I'm kind of bummed about that, but I love that movie so much. So honestly, I owe a lot to HBO and my dad, recording stuff for me, because that was the first physical media I had, just taped off of TV and good old cable. So a lot of those 80s movies really mean a lot to me, and I think the next movie to really make an impression was when my I don't want to call him my stepdad, I'll just call him my dad, when he handed me a copy of Jaws, and this was something he had taped off. He goes, "Oh, do you like? I want to show you this movie. It's about a shark." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that should be fun."
Yeah.
Oh my god! traumatized me. But by the end of it, I still hate the ocean. I will never. I mean,
I hate it too. I hate it too. I'm in the middle of literally in the middle of the country for a reason.
you're hiding from sharks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, my kids love the beach. I mean, we're in LA, so we'll go. But they've seen Jaws multiple times, and they know that you don't go deep, kid. You know what happens. You know what's waiting for you. So but that movie is another one of examples. Like, oh my God, this is pure art. This is such a beautiful dream of a movie, and I want to do this so bad. And then another movie I would reference that I discovered in the video store days, a movie called Transfers 2. It's not well known. It's from Full Moon Pictures. It's a sequel, obviously, to a sort of a forgotten movie called Transfers. But Transfers 2 was very special for me because it was the first behind the scenes I ever saw. Ever. And that was sort of their gimmick. They were direct to video, but at the end of their movies, they had something called the video magazine where they showed behind the scenes. And here you see it was an interview. It's like, behind the scenes, like how we see them now, like interviews with the actors, fun behind the set, bloopers, that kind of stuff. I'm like, holy shit, that looks like so much fun. And I fell in love with that cast, and I fell in love with the process of how they made the movie. And that really that movie super cemented my journey into like, okay, filmmaking is it, not just acting, but I want to make movies. And so I definitely toss it into the court of Transfers 2, which is a movie almost nobody's seen, but it's not a great movie, but it meant a lot to me at the time.
I have not seen that film. Surprise. But I do need to get that VHS copy. That does sound like something I need to hunt for. So
yeah, it's the first one just came out on 4K, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna release the other ones. Full Moon's actually having a sale, so if you're interested,
everyone.
Yeah, fullmoondirect.com, I think, is their new site.
Nice.
But yeah, so they have like a 40% off 4th of July sale now. So in case anyone's interested, go check it out.
Yeah. Well, I hope people see this a little bit later to save some money, but also,
Oh, that's right. Forget I said anything.
That's all good.
Only for you. Only for you.
Only for me. Okay, good. That's why I'm keeping this in. So, for me to remember. Okay, but from, I guess, you were talking about some home movies and like those VHSs being tapes and like those 6-hour those 6-hour tapes. So you said your dad had all those like just lined up just of different movies, and so what was the next step? Did you ever go to like Blockbuster or any of those rental stores, or when I guess you said he was a physical media collector already, so what was your first physical media thing that you had yourself that you purchased with your own money?
Let's see. I don't remember the first VHS, but in terms of physical media, like as soon as Beta came out, like he had the first Beta player. He had Beta tapes. When VHS was more affordable, we got the VHS player, we got VHS. He loved the old classic stuff like, Dr. Zhivago and Great Escape, so he would buy all that stuff. So we had better versions of those bigger movies. And then Laserdisc. Yeah, Laserdisc, he had this weird one. I forget the name of it, but it was like in a plastic case. It was kind of a Laserdisc, but it was almost like a giant floppy disk movie. It was weird. I forget what that's called, but he had that as well. In terms of the first, I don't remember my first VHS, but I do remember my first Laserdisc was Scream.
Excellent.
Because it's probably my right up there with Jaws is my favorite horror film, and so I had to get that on Laserdisc, and it was the first time I discovered what audio commentary was, which was cool. But yeah, he would pretty much buy. He had, I wouldn't say a disposable income, but he loved movies and he loved to buy stuff, and that's sort of really what kind of got me hooked on buying physical media. So we would go every weekend, or he knew about Tuesdays. We would go Tuesdays to the stores and see what they got. And there was a huge store, and I grew up in Miami, a huge store called Incredible Universe, and it was as far as I know, it only existed in Florida, but I'm not sure if it was anywhere else. But imagine a giant kind of Best Buy, but it was kind of like also like a Fry's Electronics. It was kind of themed like a science fiction-y kind of place, and they had a massive movie section. Massive, the biggest I've ever seen. And that's where I discovered Rhino Home Video. And Rhino put out the junk that I love to this day, man, like Slime People, just basically all the garbage black and white 50s monster movies that a lot of young people sort of thumb their nose at today. I love that. I grew up on that shit. I used to buy that shit by the boatload. I had a huge VHS collection, which I abandoned after I got married because we were moving to LA. And like, well, I can't bring this with me, so I gave it to my mother-in-law to figure out what to do with, and she sold this box of like, it must have been 1,000 tapes. I think she sold it for like $5.
Oh my God.
Yes. I'm like, damn it, that's just fine. Like, there was some rare tapes in there, but whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But yeah, as soon as physical media became easy to buy, I would buy everything, And then when DVD came out, I would literally buy shit that I was like, I would blind buy everything and stuff that I regretted. But at the time, I was like, oh man, this, yeah, I'll grab this. Oh, look at this cool cover. Oh, whatever. Oh, this came out. Okay, I'll grab that. And so my DVD collection expanded, and then Blu-ray came in. But yeah, physical media was a huge part of my life, only because I think it was almost like having a totem. You get to own the magic. It wasn't as ephemeral seeing it on the screen. Now you can have a piece of this magic and you could tap into it, whenever you want it. And I think that's a very special thing. That's why collecting has endured to this day. That's why it hasn't died. And the people who say, wow, they still make Blu-rays. Yeah. They don't get movies like we do,
Yeah. It's an interesting process. I mean, I guess going all the way back then, to, thinking about those big movie stores. And I mean, we had like Best Buy and Hastings here in the Midwest, and then also Sam Goody, of course, and Suncoast. Those are a lot of my memories. But isn't it weird how, I mean, I feel like this is shouting to the masses because I feel like all of us say this, but it is really cool to see the time we're living in now when it comes to physical media. I really am super, stoked about all these different labels and, all these different companies trying to treat, these movies like, something like Rhino or, whatever it is, there's an audience for it. And I like it that way. Although it is getting expensive, I will say, because it's becoming more niche, but at least it's still being treated right, I hope. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, pricing is kind of insane. But then I look back to I used to work at Virgin Records back in the day, and that's where I discovered Criterion. Actually, they had a huge Criterion section, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to see all of Seven Samurai. That was my first Criterion. I'm like, oh, this has been on my list. I've been reading all these like film books and talking about this movie. I'm like, I gotta get this. It was $40 on DVD back then, and I was like, $40? Get the hell out of here! You know what I mean? Like, I was buying new movies for $17. Why would I buy an old movie for $40? So, and then it wasn't until I don't know if it was specifically a Criterion sale, but there was a big 50% off sale. I picked up that. I picked up Onibaba. That's when I really kicked off my Criterion collection. Thanks to Virgin Records sale. Speaking of, Barnes and Noble sale is happening in July. So
yeah, whole month.
Sales help. Yeah. Honestly, if you can't, I would suggest anybody just buy during a sale. You're still supporting the company, and you're supporting your pocketbook. Yeah,
and also just supporting Barnes and Noble, which we like. All right, I'm midway. I have middle feelings about that place. But
why? What happened? Why do you have this love-hate relationship with Barnes and Noble?
Well, one time it threatened my family, Jose.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it all happened at the Starbucks inside it, so I can't even step into Starbucks anymore. It's all floods back to me. But I go there just for the Criterion sale, so I hope people can go back, and relive their fears. At least how I did it myself. So.
Wear sunglasses and a mask, and like they won't recognize you. And...
I wear those all the time when I'm there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So we talked about physical media and collecting, but where that going back to that first memory, thinking about like, I want to do this, right? Like, when did that whole process start? Like, was it, you said you wanted to become an actor first, so tell us more about that process of doing that and then where you are now.
Yeah, I think as soon as my dad, again, the physical media guy, he got the first camcorder. As soon as he got that, I'm like, oh, I'm making movies. That's what I'm doing. It's time to practice. I called up my friends, like, guys, we're making a movie. You know, we didn't have a script. We just show up. Okay, you're a ninja, and I come out and punch you, and then then you turn into a vampire. You know, like we made like 30, 40 like just random things. You know, and then I would act and direct, and then we would take turns. Like, okay, anybody want to direct? You guys can take turns, whatever. And then we'd have like our own little Oscars at the end of the year and watch the movies. And it was, you know, it was practice. It was fun. It was honestly one of the most joyful times I've ever had. And it just felt right. You know, it felt like things had clicked. Like this is it. You know, find a way to make a living doing this, which I'm still trying to do. But but it happens. That's one of the sad realities of filmmaking. But yeah, as soon as I got a camcorder, I was just making movies. And then I just realized, you know, acting, you know, I wasn't amazing at it. I didn't really go to classes or anything, but I kind of just preferred telling other people what to do. And you know, it is a full-time job to direct. It's a full-time job to, you know, writing is technically full-time, but once the movie's shooting, you're technically done. But if you're the writer director, you're writing on set and you're changing lines. Oh, that doesn't sound right. Say this instead. You know, all that stuff that comes up all the time. My first 2 movies I made right out of film school. I decided to go to film school, and I did 2 years of film school because I didn't want to do college. I didn't want to do school at all. I hated school. I hated school very much. I was like, I feel like I'm wasting my time, you know. And I know you're a teacher, right?
I'm outed. Yeah. No, we're good. No, people know.
But yeah, I was not a fan of school. I had great teachers though, but I felt like stifled. I'm like, this is not where I belong. I would rather be making a movie than sitting here learning about the Civil War or whatever. I'll watch a movie about it. You know, you know.
I learned about this in Glory. What are you talking about? Come on, just
yeah, exactly.
Come on now.
Exactly. Denzel Washington, right? Come on, he was a part of it somehow, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as school was done, I said, look, I don't want to take a 4-year college, but I will do a film school because you know you do have to learn. You should learn the basics, like what things are called, like what different techniques are called, all that stuff. It's part of the fun. It's part of the poetry of the process. So I went to film school, did an associate's program. As soon as I was out, I shot my first movie, shot on video movie called The Monster Man. And it was just basically an expanded movie with me and my friends. We actually hired some actors to come in. A couple of actors from Full Moon are in the movie as well. A couple of Scream. We got Linnea Quigley in it. Tom Savini's in it. You know, so I threw in some names for, you know, to spice up the movie and the appeal. And I was the lead actor in that. And it was a lot of work, but it was the most fun I've ever had making a movie. To this day, it's my perfect movie because it was 100% me. And I didn't have to change anything or rewrite anything, and it was just a dream production. Then the next one I shot on 35 millimeter, my one and only 35 millimeter film, and again I took the lead in that one because again it was just, I can't find anybody, I'll just do it, and then just cast everybody else, and that was really hard because it was film and we had a short time, and these were all funded by me, by the way, which is something I can't do anymore. After that, I'm like, you know, I think I'm done acting, but I really want to direct. The problem is, once you make a movie, this is what they don't tell you. It's hard to get anybody to watch it, much less give you money for them to put it out, you know, on physical media. So that was the real struggle, and that's really what filmmaking should be taught. How filmmaking should be taught, like the distribution model, and what the other half of the coin is. Making the movie is easy. Getting people to watch it and give a shit about it, that's hard.
Yeah. I mean, festivals help, right? You know, get some buzz, but that's one of those unseen things. I mean, obviously somebody who doesn't make movies like myself, I can't even imagine that whole process, because there's, you know, like just going back to that first thing you said, you know, it's that magic that you got to create to people. That's what they see, right? But then all that other stuff behind the scenes, and all the components and moving parts that are going along with it, I'm sure are a headache, but also hopefully rewarding to some extent. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is. But yeah, I mean, the stuff that that no one really talks about is all the contracts. You know, all the you know, whatever post-production issues. Oh, our sound is messed up. Like, oh, we lost an entire tape. We're gonna have to go reshoot that. You know, should we shoot that day? You know, just so like I remember my first movie, the Monster Man, when I shot on video, the first day of production. we get there, and I had forgotten to bring it. We shot it on DV, and I actually forgot to bring DV tape. So I had all my actors sitting around. I'm like, fuck, I didn't bring the fucking tape to film the movie with. It was frustrating to say the least. So we didn't actually shoot that day. And I was pissed. But of course I would be. I was making a movie, my first big day making my first movie, and it was a huge blunder on my part. So it was, but it was a symbol, or I should say signal of things to come, because it's never going to go how you expect it to go. You may expect it to be a tragedy, and it's a completely peaceful experience, or it could go, you could think it's a dream and then it ends up a nightmare, which is, and I've had both things happen, and it's unfortunate, but filmmaking is so treacherous because it's so many people, it's not just you, the filmmaker, it's dependent on so many other people to get, whatever we get on physical media, the journey that those people took, I guarantee was not easy. But as a critic, and maybe, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think as a critic, even knowing that, it shouldn't affect your approval of the movie or your appraisal of the movie. Like, and say, oh man, I can't believe all this bad stuff happened to you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be easy on the movie if the movie sucks. No, I think you should still give your opinion. And as a filmmaker, I stay away from reviews of my own movies. I don't read or watch any of them. But hey, fair game. I'll give my opinion on a movie, and feel free to give your opinion on mine. I
have some reviews right here that I was going to read off, but
oh, perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I don't. But I should have thought about that. I should be a better interviewer, right? Instead of asking
next time.
Yeah, I should get a full-time job at the TMZ. I'm gonna call it the TMC because I'm an older individual. Yeah. Okay. So, where you're at now. So how is the recent years, obviously with the pandemic and stuff like that, and recent you recently been making a movie, right? How's that whole process been recently?
It was my most troubled production, but that was all in pre-production. The production was beautiful, just fantastic. One of my favorite shoots of all time. Still not as good as my first, but it never is. Just something magical about that. I teamed up with the studio that actually distributed my second movie, the 35mm one, and I made another movie for them years ago. And then I wrote a whole bunch of stuff, and I felt kind of tired. I decided to just try and hit the Hollywood road and really hit the studios, and I got some stuff on. I won some contests. I got on these special screenwriting lists and things like that, but still no agent, still no manager. I had a manager for a while, but she wasn't really proactive. And you need those people to really kind of sound the drum in town. You could have the greatest script in the world, but if you don't have somebody that somebody else, vouches for or trusts, they're not going to give you the time of day, or they'll read the first 2 pages and go, man, not for us. And nothing happens in the first 2 pages normally. You want them to experience the movie.
Right, you want to build.
They won't give you that time. They won't give you that time of day, which is unfortunate. It's hard. It's very, very. I think it's even harder now than it was in the 80s. If I was making movies in the 80s, oh my God, I would have thrived. Only because they pay better in the 80s. I have a friend who wrote for Full Moon, and we're talking about Full Moon a lot, but he wrote for Full Moon, and he said for a script for Full Moon, they would pay you $30,000. Now that's something that people don't really talk about money, but I don't mind talking about money because I think people should know what the filmmakers are up against. Nowadays, my last movie that I wrote, the one that I just directed, I got paid $1,500. That's peanuts for the amount of work that goes into it. And it's not just write it, it's write it fast and write 8 versions of it. So it's I've been working on it since last summer, actually. So it's a year of work into this thing, and that's going to be a year and a half of work. So it's coming out in September, but that's not a lot of money at all. But
no, not at all.
But they're banking on the fact that you really want to make movies, and I really want to make movies. So I take it, because what else? Either that, or I just, sit on YouTube on a channel that's unmonetized and and yell about crappy movies. You know, I mean, I can still do that, but I can also make a movie for almost no money.
Or how about both? You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've decided on. I'll do both, and just enjoy the process. And so this one was tricky because it was the movie's called The Headless Horseman. It was kind of a tricky concept. You know, I was given 6 days to make the movie. You know, whereas back in the day they would shoot for a month. So, you know, 6 days. I mean, it used to be 12, which was very short. Now they cut it in half, which is ridiculous.
Well, they cut the head off.
Yeah, they cut. Yeah, exactly.
My bad. It's right there.
No, that was good. That was good. I appreciate you taking that. Yeah, so 6 days to make a feature film, over 100 pages of script. You know, we were shooting over 20 pages a day, rushing. I mean, you're not shooting film. There is a little leeway when you're shooting digital on red cameras, but it's not easy, and it's easy to be stressful. And there was a couple of days were really stressful, but the crew was wonderful. My cast was amazing. Everybody just wanted to make a good damn movie. We wanted to have fun, and we didn't want it to be limited by anything. And so the production went great, but the pre-production was difficult. We lost our camera package 2 days before shooting. Like, what are we going to shoot this on? You know, we had to figure out where we're going to get the lights from. All this. I mean, it was there was a lot more hurdles than there should have been.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the movie, we made it, and I think it looks fantastic. And you know, we're still editing and working out on the post. There's a lot of special effects that go into, which is unfortunately out of my hands. But it'll be out in September, so hopefully, you know, we didn't shit the bed too badly and people enjoy it.
Yeah, I hope. I can't wait to watch it. And yeah, I've seen some of your work on IMDb, and but I haven't been able to get a copy of anything yet. So I would love to. I mean, I'm sure we can talk on air or off air, but I would love to, you know, pick your brain of where to find a lot of these things, because it'd be really great to like get physical copies or at least watch it online somewhere. So
yeah, I think on Amazon, I haven't checked in a while, but my last one, Blood Brothers, is available, or should be available. I mean, I know it is available on Blu-ray, but I'm not sure if it's easy to find on Amazon or not. The Hunting of Whaley House, which is a haunted house movie I made, that was streaming somewhere, but I forget where. But that's been popping up on streaming here and there. Yeah, I think I'll have to check, but usually if you check IMDb, there'll be like a where to see section or something, and it'll give you links to either streaming sites or purchase options on Amazon.
I'll be putting your IMDb down there if that's okay with you.
Great, yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, I'm glad that the production went well. You know, barring that pre-production madness. At least you didn't forget the tape, right?
Yeah.
So, well, so I guess we've kind of run the gamut on like where you're at now, and what you're doing on the. But what about the channel though? Like, how was this process of the channel come about? Why did you start the channel, and what are you doing on it?
Well, the channel was something I toyed with for a long time. I'm friends with a couple of sort of bigger physical media YouTuber guys here in Los Angeles, Cool Duder and Wet Movie One. I love those guys very much. They were both in my movies, and you know, I see them. I've been in their vlogs, and I see them vlogging, and you know, they seem to have fun with it. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll try my hand at it, you know. But it wasn't so. It felt like there would be like a huge time commitment, and I was really focused on Hollywood stuff and writing scripts and getting stuff out and meetings and all that stuff, which is exhausting and time consuming as it is. Then the pandemic hit, and I'm like, I'm just sitting around. You know, everybody's sitting around. Maybe I'll try maybe I'll try this YouTube thing one more time. You know, I'm watching all these. You know, I watched you a lot. Aaron Pin. You know, gosh, I'm blanking. Man v Film. Like I was watching all these other amazing physical media movie guys. Daisuke Beppu. You know, so I'm like, man, this sounds like a lot of fun. These guys look cool, and you know, we're sort of like-minded. I think I'll try my hand at it, and see what happens. I'll give it a year. I'll give it a year to see what happens. But I decided that year, because I like to do challenges, so that year will be daily. So I kicked off the channel with daily videos, sometimes twice daily. When I would do a daily video, and then I would do a Master Chaos Theater movie review, and I would lump them in the same day. So it's definitely more than just one a day. And then just just see what happens. And by the end of the year, I built a community of like really, lovely people. I subscribers, but I call them friends. People who really chime in, like, hey, how you doing? How's the family? Things like that. It felt like a really good community, and I felt like if I stepped away, it would be the wrong decision. So I decided to keep going, and it helped me because during the first year of the channel. By the way, I'm coming up on my second year. July 5th is my 2-year anniversary. So.
Well, happy anniversary! This will come out a couple days after, but this is awesome. Yeah, because I remember those daily ventures, and it's cool to see that growth. That's awesome that you're here on year 2 and already have a lot of that support, and I mean that's what speaks volumes about this community. I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's there's a lot of things that go into making a channel. As you know, it's time consuming. The life gets in the way, work gets in the way. Luckily, the pandemic allowed me to have free time to not really worry about that. And even halfway through that first year, I'm like, I think I'm done being a filmmaker. It's just too exhausting. I had a couple of really bad experiences that crashed and burned. I had a TV show that was sort of in development that just all of a sudden ended. I had a movie that was gonna be that I had written and I had wrote. Oh my god, awful. I had written, and it was I was talking to the producers, and we were talking about casting, and then literally 24 hours later, oh, it's dead, goodbye. I was like, what the hell? Why does it keep happening? I'm so frustrated. I think I'm done. But the channel kept me sane, and talking about movies kept me sane to the point that I decided to come back and try again, and here I am with the new movie. But the channel has been as important to me, I think, as some people have told me that it's important to them, which I mean is such a special gift to be able to not only connect with people, but to like entertain people and warn people away from trash movies so they can save their money for food or something more interesting.
Yeah, I pedal. I do the opposite. I try to pedal. It might be shit, honestly, to some people, because I have several friends who are like Citizen Kane. No, more like Citizen Lame, right? And that was very low, and I like Citizen Kane, but I absolutely know that's not a movie for everybody. Like, and is it one of my favorite movies of all time? No, not even close. But yeah, anyway, I like the direction of the not schlock versus all the. I love that there's different things for everybody, and I think that's what's so cool about each one of us who has a channel, or even anyone who's watching, right, in the community itself. Like, we all have our different tastes, right? I mean, I just recently, over the last, like, knowing you and talking to Aaron and recently Ryan, like, I'm watching Vinegar Syndrome, and it took me forever, but I'm like, I slowly got a couple titles here. I got Incubus and a couple of things, and I was like, you know what? It's not necessarily my thing, and then all of a sudden, it's like, I get it. I love it. So,
Yeah. No, Vinegar Syndrome is very, very, very niche. I mean, their stuff is it's not for the faint of heart for sure, but only because it's so weird and it's very, very divisive stuff. One thing I do recommend, that's a new one, Cloak and Dagger. It's a great 80s movie. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's a must get. It's so good.
I was eyeing it. I didn't get it during the sale. I got a lot of their partner label stuff, which I was super excited about. I got Scream Queen, Martha, Picture Story, Heavy Trip, which I adore because I'm a metalhead. And that movie got it. Have you ever seen Metalocalypse?
Oh, Metalocalypse, yeah.
Yeah. It's this. That's what speaks to me so much. Is like it reminded me of that, where it's like, you know what? If you're in this scene in some instance, you get that humor very well. Like it's like made for you, right? It's one of those weird things. It's like that's what I felt with Heavy Trip. So it's hard for me to like talk about it, but also recommend it. It's like, well, like you'll enjoy it probably, but the level of enjoyment is much greater if you're a big metal fan. So.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, that's a big one, because I was going to ask. I'm not necessarily a metalhead. I mean, I know the bands for the most part. I mean, not like any recent ones, but I was wondering if somebody sort of coming in cold would get as much enjoyment out of it. But you've answered that. So.
Well, it's interesting to think about that, because like I like going. So I'm a little bit of a schnob. So about that because I used to work at a record store, so yeah, I just kind of developed a little bit of like if I see metal in movies, like it's like I'm really looking like I'm really analyzing it a little bit. I'm like, okay, what did you choose? Did you choose something easy, or something for everybody, or did you actually go for it? Like like in The Devil's Candy, right? For instance, like a pretty fun horror movie that really uses metal in it. I really enjoy that movie. However, they do use some mainstream metal that I'm like, you could have done better. You could have done better. But then I'd see something like what's that Jesse Eisenberg karate movie that I can't.
Oh, Art of Self-Defense.
Yeah, so that uses like one of the director's favorite like bands, Full of Hell, which is a great industrial and like noise rock, like noise metal band, and like that's the stuff that I love. It's like, and so when I watched that movie, I was like, holy shit, that's Full of Hell. It's like there's no way like the average metal person would like get that. So that's the stuff that I like, and Heavy Trip has a little bit of both, a good balance of both. But anyway, got off topic here. Anyway.
No, that's good. That's good.
Obviously, you're in the filmmaking industry and around it, and doing various things in it. But if you could think about some of your favorite films, I mean, obviously, Superman 2 holds a special place in your heart. What about anything that's from that childhood period, or like anything that you like now? What are some of your favorites?
Oh, gosh, there's a lot. I think another movie that really hit that hit me, that really speaks to me in terms of I mean, it's the complete opposite to what I would consider Jaws my favorite movie of all time. Right next to It's a Wonderful Life. So two completely opposite movies, but to me they sort of they fill a need, and that's why they're both at the top. It's a Wonderful Life. I discovered it at school. I went to Catholic school. My most of my teachers were nuns, and that's not why I hated school, but just they were lovely people. But one Christmas, right before break, our teacher says, "Oh, we're gonna watch a movie." And usually, whenever we watch a movie, sometimes it's I don't love watching movies in school. I don't know why, it just doesn't work for me. Like in film school, we'd watch all these. Like we'd watch 8.5, and it wasn't until I watched it on my own that I really liked it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's weird, but so we're gonna watch a movie. I'm like, all right, and we go into the auditorium, and like it's two classes together. And she said, the movie's called It's a Wonderful Life. It stars Jimmy Stewart, and you guys are gonna like it. Well, I watch this every Christmas, and the movie starts. I mean, and this is like 8th grade, so apathetic 8th graders. We're about to go to Christmas break. No one gives a crap, and then this movie starts. And there's something about the beginning, right from the beginning. The angels are talking, like, we have to help this man. Please help George Bailey. All this stuff. All the town is praying for him. Instantly, that voice that spoke to me at Superman 2 said, "Hey, pay attention to this one." And I was hooked the whole movie. I think by the end of the movie, everybody was kind of like hiding their tears, like they were pretending they weren't crying. You know what I mean? It's such a wonderful film. To this day, I mean, I cry every time. I cry at the beginning of the movie, but as soon as the movie starts, I'm in tears because I know it's such a beautiful emotional journey. There's no movie that does it to me like It's a Wonderful Life, and it's an exhausting experience. I have to watch it every 2 years because every year I would just be burnt out. Because it's so emotionally draining, but so rewarding. Even thinking about it now, I get choked up because I think the movie's message is so special and so pure. And I think that's kind of how I wanted to live my life. Like every person is important, every individual, no matter what you think of them, I believe, and I'm kind of agnostic right now. I haven't chosen a side. I grew up Catholic, but I'm agnostic at the moment. But I do believe everybody's here for a reason. I don't believe in so much in randomness. And so that movie kind of speaks to my philosophy in a way. It's like every person made a difference, even if you thought, oh, this guy's failing at his business and whatever, and he's kind of just like a dumpy guy, but he saved his brother. He kept these people safe, and he did this, and he made Mary's life, more richer. She became a mother because of him, and all this stuff. So there's all this stuff that we don't know what we do, how we affect people, and then that translated into movies. You know, I could pick any movie. You know, let's Surf 2. I didn't like it, but somebody could be watching that movie and it could put a smile on their face, and maybe they were having the worst day of their life, and that movie, as terrible as it is, changed their life. And that filmmaker will never know. You know, Eddie Deason will never know. I forget the name of the director, but none of those guys will ever know. But that person was helped, and I think that's why that movie is so special to me, because it shows you the power of movies by itself being a movie that's helping people, and that's why it's stood the test of time. So I think that one for sure, 100%, is one of my most favorite movies, and one that I think is an important film, one that people haven't seen. You know, do yourself the favor and watch it, because it's there's no way you're not gonna love this movie
or cry, right? I watched it. I finally got. I mean, the 4K recently, dropped. I think, was it last year? I think when it came out. And I finally watched it on 4K, and it looks amazing. But I watched it with a friend, and that friend, he's been in my life for quite some time. Ever since college, I used to always. He runs a coffee shop, and it's a really special movie for him. And so I'm like, hey man, like, let's watch this together, because it's been a while since I had seen him. And yeah, that movie, I have some special memories with it. But yeah, I'm glad that that's one of your favorites too, because it's an essential movie for everyone, I hope.
And it's I mean, it's filmmaking 101. Great script, great directing, great acting. I mean, you learn a lot from the movies. That everything connects. The way a character is introduced will pay off later. The one little line will pay off later. Well, Zuzu's petals will pay off. All this stuff. There's so much great filmmaking and acting on display, like Jimmy Stewart crying at the bar. He wasn't supposed to cry. That came naturally. You know, he was just supposed to say the line, but he was so into the George Bailey character that his tears came out. And then that scene is so powerful because he is pouring his soul into it. And I think that translates into why that movie is so powerful. Again, I mean, I can talk about magic. I talk about totems. That movie is a powerful totem because it's got all that emotional. The director, Frank Capra, made that movie because he knew that movie was important. There was a reason he wanted to tell that story, and he threw that magic in the world, and it's still alive. I mean, that's amazing. And the fact it's more available than, my wife and I went to the Louvre to see what's her face. I'm blanking on the name. The famous painting with the lady. Oh my God.
The Mona Lisa?
Mona Lisa, that's her name. The famous painting with the lady. So, we went to see the Mona Lisa. Hey, great. It's a little picture. Cool. But right across the way from the Mona Lisa is this amazing giant wall, like painting of this fabulous wall battle. People's faces, perspectives, ships in the distance, ships in the foreground, fire, all these kind of elements. And I'm looking at the Mona Lisa, I'm like, this thing is like literally the size of my laptop. And I look over here, and there's this massive painting that looks like it took the guy 2 years to make. Why isn't that famous? And I think the painter was famous, but not as famous as the Mona Lisa. People come
right. It's at the Louvre, so it's got to be a little bit famous, right?
Right. It's got to be a little, a little bit. I mean, there's no stuff up there, but but it's like, people don't come to see this thing. Everyone comes to this room for that, and I just found that interesting. But movies are more accessible than paintings because you don't have to go necessarily everywhere to go see it. It can come to you, or you can own it in your hand, and watch it anytime you want. And so I like that we're purveyors of magic. And I think that's kind of a cool way to see us, instead of like, hey, buy these shitty movies on sale.
Yeah, they're on sale. So might as well jump into New York Ninja. I mean, it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, actually is really fun. But
it is.
But yeah, would it be greater if Bruce was in It's a Wonderful Life at the bridge scene, like down there, just lurking, like, you could get, a little Jaws in it as well. Could it be more perfect though?
I mean, that would be Sure. I mean, I think that people would be like, wait, why was that shark in the movie? What was that part? What was that about?
You just like you hear the music cue and you're like, wait, what? What's going on here?
That's pretty amazing. I mean, now I kind of wish somebody had done a mashup of that. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Well, you heard it here first. Contact us about it though first.
Yes.
The way we know about it. Well, that's awesome. That's a great movie. Both movies are great. Even if there's not a collaboration of them both. But what about any directors? I mean, you have probably some favorite directors, and maybe there's some people that you've liked their direction, that you've kind of probably you do your own thing, obviously, but I'm sure there's a little touches here and there from other directors that you take. So any director you like?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's when I do my reviews, I mention I'm watching this movie as a filmmaker because I pay attention. Some things maybe sometimes people don't notice, or they haven't been behind the scenes, or they didn't go to film school necessarily notice these little things. So I pay attention to camera moves, performance, why a certain actor, why did he turn at that moment to say that line? If he had waited a second, it would have worked better for dramatic purposes if he'd done this and that. So I'm very critical about a movie because I'm watching it as a director. Like, how would I have directed it? And so for a movie to impress me, it's got to be really great. And not that I'm the greatest director, but I'm watching it super critically. But I grew up watching stuff. Spielberg is was a master. I mean, even at an early age, Jaws is a masterfully directed movie. The way he frames things, the way he holds on things, the way the camera will suddenly move, and the frame is filled with a new character, and you didn't really do much. But the same character stayed in the same shot, but now he's over here. There's a lyricism to the way he directs it, and I think that speaks to why it's such a rewatchable movie, because it's all these little hidden camera surprises that I don't think he's ever really. I mean, Jurassic Park comes close, but I think Jaws is probably his best directed movie in my opinion.
Yeah,
in terms of the way he moves the camera, I love Spielberg. Fellini is a filmmaker that I really admire because he's a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, and while his movies are very chaotic and they're very wild and loud, his movies are about the set. Yeah, it's amazing.
He can see how loud he is.
Yeah, exactly. He probably didn't even need that. He could probably just talking to anyone hear him. But his movies are all a celebration of life and love and people and creation and connection. And I think that's and as soon as I discovered that, I was really impressed with when filmmakers had said something. And I think I'm not going to lump everybody in, but a lot of American filmmakers, and I'm responsible for it only because it's what I've been handed. Necessarily haven't been able to make my message movie or whatever. But most American movies are just popcorn movies. They go in, you popcorn. They look cool, but they're not necessarily going to move you or change your life necessarily. Like something if you walk into La Strada and you get to the end of the movie and you're like, oh my God, I'm gutted. Now I know what this whole movie was about. Like at first I'm like, okay, this guy's an asshole, and I feel really feel bad for her and all this stuff. And then you get to the end of the movie and like, God damn. Wow, this movie just gutted me, and it was just such a simple scene because we've been on this ride, and what we didn't know behind the scenes, we were understanding the psychology of all these characters. When we get to the end of the movie, spoilers for anybody who's seen it, who hasn't seen it, I should say. He's on the beach, he's crying. We realize he has been in love with this woman the whole time, and he just never knew how to say it. And now she's gone, and it's too late, and his life is over. And it's crushing, but it's such a beautiful movie. And it's one of those like, hey, when you have the time, say what you have to say. And I love it. It makes me happy. Umberto D is another example.
Yeah, I just recently watched that movie for the first time.
God. What'd you think? Did you like it?
I loved it. Yeah. That's a movie that made me moved me quite a bit. Yeah.
And it's such a simple movie. I the first time I got to see that was in theaters here in Los Angeles. They were playing it, and I'm like, oh, I'll see it. I'm not familiar with the director or anything, but whatever. People seem, I've heard about it, so I'm gonna go check it out. And the movie's happening, and I'm like, well, there's not really much going on here. There's guys living in an apartment. I guess he has a dog, but then the ending happens. Spoiler alert, and the dog saves his life. oh, and then the movie ends. You're like, that is such a beautiful thing, because right from the beginning he knew he wasn't alone. You know, he always had Flike. I think that's the name of the dog.
Flike, Flike, I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
I don't know Italian. So.
Yeah, one of those. It was the dog's name with an F. And he had the dog, and that's all he really needed, was to be reminded that life is worth living, and that he can't go because he has to take care of his dog. Oh, there's just so much richness to that simple little scene that changes everything we've seen. And again, I love when a director can do that and paint a portrait without really telling us he's painting a portrait. We're just seeing life, and then life comes into focus. And I think that's true power. Again, magic. That's true magic of cinema, and that's kind of why I think Criterion is my favorite label, because I've found so many movies like those movies, because they're both on Criterion, that have delivered the unexpected, have shown me a world that I've never seen before, not just because they're foreign films or whatever, but because they've shown me the human condition in such a beautiful, unique way that I wasn't expecting. And I think that's the one label that I've been the least disappointed with. I think maybe there's one or two that I'm like, that I've bought, but mostly all my blind buys have been winners.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason. This is the whole reason that I've gotten into this whole damn thing. Is Criterion was one of those firsts for me, and I asked that very question like a few weeks ago, actually, asking what everyone's first boutique label was, and you mentioned Seven Samurai, and I was like, that was my first Criterion as well, on Blu-ray. But it's so cool, to see a label like that, promote that, these level of world, I guess, just worldwide stories, hopefully, and it seems to be getting better and better as years progress, as we're getting more voices from different places, and I really enjoy that side. So great choices. I need to watch more. I've only seen La Strada, and I've only seen 8.5 from Fellini.
Oh, okay.
So obviously the essentials, but I need to watch more.
I'll warn you, Satyricon is hard to get through. That's my least favorite one. That one's hard to get through. I think he goes too far on that one.
all right. I'll definitely put that one on first.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll get better from there.
Yeah.
This is a good segue. I feel like, obviously you have made films yourself, but if your own life was a movie, just based on what we've kind of been talking about, do you think you could come up with a title for what that would look like?
Oh gosh, a title. Jeez.
Come on.
This is what I agonize over the most, coming up with a title, because a title has to be important. I don't know. I feel like anything I would come up with would sound.
It'll sound different a different day. Like, right now, what would it be? Obviously I'm not asking what would it be tomorrow, or what would it be yesterday? That's kind of what that question is. I don't want to pressure people too much on that. So
I guess I would say, right now, I would call it green light, blue light, because I have a green light and a blue light next to me, and
there you go.
It would be a film a vlogger who's also a filmmaker, trying to manage family and career. There you go.
Green light, blue light. Sounds like a Dr. Seuss book.
Yeah. it would be written like that as well. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. A lot of wordplay. That's great. So I guess as like we're kind of encapsulating this entire process. Obviously you are within the medium itself and doing and working with it in various ways, of course, obviously with our channels and with your films and how you're writing things as well. But how, I guess, collectively, how we're putting this all together, how has this medium overall changed your worldview or your outlook on the world or and life in general?
It's hard to say, because I from an early age, it was my outlook. It was the only thing there was no other job I wanted. I mean, I watched RoboCop. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll be a cop. And then I was like, you know what? Nah, I'll play a cop in a movie.
If we can be robot cops, then
right.
Maybe.
It might be safer, yeah. But like, yeah, and they're like, well, you get shot in real life, or it's like, nah. Movies just answers everything. If you want to be a doctor, be a movie doctor. You don't have to go to school for 8 years or whatever. So yeah, I think in terms of changing my outlook, I think it's certainly. I mean, I think once you become a filmmaker and you really see how difficult it is to in the film business in general. There's obviously there's a degree of bitterness that happens. I mean, there's a lot more people that are very bitter. I know a lot of people that are just kind of unpleasant to be around. Which is unfortunate because they've had bad luck and they felt like the dream has abandoned them. But I think everyone goes through that cycle, and some people don't get out of it. And if you find your way out of it, I think you just have to make peace with it, how difficult it is. And then you realize no job is easy. Nobody has it easy. I did Starbucks for 2 months. I'm like, oh, no way.
Starbucks again. Here it comes.
Yeah, like, no thanks. I was Virgin Records for like a year, and it was just like, I respect people who do retail, but that's not where my soul is at. My soul is trying to make these movies. Even if I'm starving at it, I'm going to try it. So it certainly, if anything, it's made me more hopeful. And I think as a father, it's definitely made me more of an open person in terms of possibilities. And I think, I mean, the father I grew up with was wonderful, and he loved movies. And so he was very open to the idea of me making movies and being a part of it. They just didn't get it. They were old school Cubans, so they didn't really, they didn't get, like, how do you make movies? They didn't really get that. So, that was a lot of it, was my internal drive to, make it happen. If it wasn't for me, nothing would happen. And it's the same with everybody. And some people choose the path and some people don't. And the path is never easy for anybody. But I think, not so much movies have shaped my life, but losing my parents early on certainly made me a more driven individual. At an early age, I was aware of death, and I was aware of the finiteness of it. And I'll be honest, I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about, one day I won't be in my kids' lives. One day I won't be on YouTube. This might be my last video. I hope it's not. But, as one
of those 7th.
Yeah,
this is gone. No,
yeah.
dark humor.
But so I'm very aware of that stuff, and I think that's certainly shaped my outlook, and pushed my YouTube, energy. Like, I'll do daily because, why not? I want as much content out there, so when I'm gone, I have the content out there. So I think in terms of my outlook, I people call it bleak, but I think I'm more of a realist when it comes to what is. I mean, eventually I won't be here. We won't be here. But movies will. Movies outlive us. And I think even when we're gone, 30, 40, well, hopefully we'll last longer than that. But let's say 100 years from now.
Yeah.
100 years from now. Right. 100 years from now, maybe somebody will watch something I made. Maybe somebody will watch one of our videos if YouTube is still around. Who knows? But we'll make a connection with that person. And I never met Frank Capra. I never met Jimmy Stewart, but I consider them family because I've made a connection with them through that movie. And I went to Jimmy's grave. It was one of the first things I did in Los Angeles. And I went to Jimmy's grave. I said, thank you. And I gave him some flowers because it was so important to me. And I think if you can find something like that, a magic that transcends death, man, I mean, what else do you got to strive for? I think that's so in terms of my worldview, that's how movies have shaped my worldview. They are the true immortality, and so God bless Vinegar Syndrome and Severin for putting out these awful movies that maybe I don't like, but there might be 5 people out there that really enjoy it, and it makes their day and it changes their life. So there you go. Success there.
I mean, that's I love that part about being remembered in some way and making an impact on somebody. I think that's a beautiful way to have an outlook on that. I always fumble on this part. I'm like, how do I follow up that? But it really does. it's something you think about. It's one of those things that you want to see what is left behind after our limited time on this place. So I hope it's all worth it, and at least we're having a fun time with it all through the ups and downs, right?
Absolutely. I mean, another recent movie that's I don't know if you've seen it, but you should if you haven't. Coco.
Yeah, I love Coco. That's like it's one of my favorite Disney Pixar movies of the last decade for sure.
Oh my God, I think it's probably my favorite Pixar movie, just because again, go back to the Umberto D situation, the La Strada, just the simple last scene was all about a guy who wanted to be remembered by his daughter. Oh my God. You know what I mean? That kills you. It's such a beautiful movie, and it's such a beautiful, just a little message. Remember me. God damn. I mean, it sends chills up my back just thinking about it. And that's, again, a movie doesn't have to be a big grandiose thing. It could be, and some of the, honestly, that's why most of the Oscars are small movies, because it's the small little messages that really, I think, impact people. I mean, nowadays I think Oscar movies have gone in a weird direction, but stuff like Forrest Gump. I remember those. Those back in the day, like the '90s, or that's when the Oscars, I think, were really going to hit their stride with some really memorable movies that really just spoke to a culture, and that's great.
Yeah. Well, this has been an absolute treat having you on. I like I said at the beginning, it's been on my mind for quite some time, and I think this film journey and sharing with everyone watching right now, I hope everyone's stuck to the end and heard all our wonderful words and all our shilling. So hopefully people can buy some of these things we talked about. So do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Well, I wish everyone well that's watching. Nathan, you are a wonderful voice here, and I hope you continue to do this for as long as you deem fit, and as long as it seems rational to you to do so here on YouTube. You're needed on here, so I'm glad you're here. And we should get together maybe when you're back and talk Criterion, man, because it's I've talked about the channel here, but the physical media sales going on, and people are crazy for that. So I'd love to chat Criterion when you're back in town.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to. So I'll definitely message you on that. But where can everyone find you? Speaking of your channel and stuff.
Well, here on YouTube, MasterChaosTV. I assume you'll provide a link or something down there. I have a Twitter, MasterChaosTV. You can find me on Letterboxd as well, MasterChaosTV as well. And I didn't know you were on, so I'm gonna friend you on there or whatever, follow you, however it works.
I don't know what it is. All my friends on Letterboxd, followers. Yeah, I think it's follow anyway.
Well, yeah, something like that. So that's pretty much all that I'm on, Twitter, YouTube, and Letterboxd at the moment.
Those are good places. So, well, sometimes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation with Master Chaos, and the links are going to be down in the description. Final thoughts on this. This was, like I said, a lot of fun, and I hope everyone quite enjoyed this great conversation. So be sure to like the video, comment down below. We'll love to talk to you down in the comment section. Share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. I'm not joking around.